Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
How's it going, Lance?
It's another beautiful sunny day in Colorado. I don't know why everybody else lives everywhere else.
What do you do?
What are you doing? What are you doing with their lives?
Unless you're in Florida, shout out Nick.
Yeah, I can agree with Florida. I like Florida.
I can agree with Texas. Shout out my sister Wendy.
I can agree with that too. Upstate New York, I'm with you there, Mark.
No, you're just trying to placate Mark LePage of Andre. What? You don't really. Come on, it's cold up there.
Gosh, it is cold. It is cold.
Yeah.
But I like how old. I like the history. Like when you drive through there and you see those really old cobblestone bridges and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my god, I am in Sleepy Hollow. I am in it.
The towns are amazing. I think little towns. It's
like Terrytown. Love that place.
Yeah, it's just the coldness, and I know you'll be thinking you get used to it. It's just fine. I lived in Minnesota and North Dakota for 22
too long.
3.
Too long.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys don't even know. You don't even know what you're missing.
I couldn't convince myself to drive 12 hours to go to home for Thanksgiving because it's so cold.
Yeah, it was. There was frost on the ground, and now it is beautiful, and guys are setting stuff up, and we'll talk about that.
I went out in last night in my backyard it was like 6 p.m. My wife said, "Hey, will you go pick a salad?" I picked a salad last night.
Yeah,
that's how I do it.
So move to Colorado. We'll greet you with a high five. First, let's talk about something that just happened. And I think it was a failure on our part because we just failed at fundamentals.
And it's good to fail sometimes. And I think that's every single time Alex and I fail, or anything goes wrong, we always try to find a silver lining because I just know there is a silver lining. Yes. Every single time there's a silver lining. So
we were selling a product. And they wanted a clause in there that their deposit would be refundable. And in my head, and Lance even said, like, look over the contract, right? And I put in something about some other stuff, but I should have known to put this in too. My head was thinking, like, okay, if their deposit is refundable, it's reciprocal. But it wasn't clear because it said refund. It was basically non-refundable at the buyer's discretion.
Yep.
And we should have put the seller's discretion too. And the reason why is because honestly, if they're asking for that, they might be trying to put you in a position where they can come and then even weasel more where you've turned down other people and all that. So I would always have in your contracts a way for you to get out of it. And that should be a fundamental principle. We have that in our contracts, right? In all the house contracts that I've ever had.
And it can come down to a simple sentence that both parties can terminate this contract at any time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's asking for the moon, but for the most part, we get that in our contracts because you got to be able to walk away if it just can turn sour so quickly for so many different reasons. Or not just turning sour, but maybe there's a better opportunity out there. So maybe you're stuck into this little crappy little project with this strict deadline, and then something else comes along with a bigger, much more graceful deadline and a ton more money.
Exactly. So you have to, and so the silver lining that we took for this was a smaller item, right? And we're going to be doing our development project. So at sometimes, like we talk to developers all the time, and they really weight it in their favor. And I think it's because there's a scope of people, and I didn't realize that these people that bad people exist. Well, honestly, I thought we were helping someone out.
Not only that, but I think Alex and I continually need to be reminded that not everybody thinks like us, and we for some reason think everybody should think like us, especially when it comes down to business and how we would approach things.
And I would amend my not bad. It wasn't a good fit. That's all I'd say. Some people are not a good fit.
Yeah,
and that's fine. So when we're doing our development project, we're gonna have it so that if it's not a good fit, we can both part ways, and it will be a fair part. People get their money back. They might even get interest or whatever, depending on the time that you close or whatever. But But it's a lesson to us. There's fundamentals in design. There's principles in contracts. And remember those two. And there's principles in everything, leadership, everything. But always think about those 3 or 4 things that are key in whatever you're doing, and make sure you address them, at least in your head, or,
And have some patience. When you are selling a product. Be firm to your, because what it is like, it's basically a gamble, right? You're saying I want X amount of dollars for this product, and somebody else is going to say, oh, well, I'm only going to give you another X amount of dollars. So, like, if I ever go and I gamble, one of the things I say, okay, I'm going to spend 100, and then if I get up to 500, I'm out and I'm done. Like, you have to set some sort of stop limit for yourself.
Yep.
For that.
Yep.
So for us, we're chalking this up to, we're still okay. Everything's fine. We're going to sell this product. It's going to be great. But it is a lesson for us moving ahead with the development, in that we need to cross our T's and dot our I's 100%. Follow up with everything. Make sure we have at least one out, no matter what, at the end of the contract, and that it's favored towards us. And then don't budge on that, because if we're the one making the product and taking all the risk, then we think we are entitled to, just by being the owners and the people producing it, the out at the end.
Yep. Because the development is 100 times larger.
Yep.
So it's 100 times more. It could have been a mess up.
You want to give people a quick update on the development project? We got comments back.
Yes, we got comments back from the city. Most of them are just ticky-tacky.
The great thing is there's no huge red flags saying it's not going forward.
Right.
No massive deal breakers. The biggest thing for us was parking, and it always is, and we are figuring it out.
And what's hilarious is that they're saying that we want a variance because we're providing more parking than is necessary.
Did you hear that? These greedy developers over here are providing more parking than is necessary.
Yeah. So the city says, pay us money for that variance. I'm going to walk in and have a discussion and say, let's say there's name any rule, like a standard. You need to have your roof. Let's say for some reason the city says roof trusses should be 24 inches on center. And then you say, oh, we're going to do 16 because we're going to have a greater load up there. Oh, variance. You provided more than was necessary.
How dare you?
Please pay us money. So parking is an issue because we have more parking that's necessary, but we don't have it the way that they want it. So we'll have to figure that out. What was it? Oh, they say that we can't have our trash in the setback, our enclosure, but that's not what the code says. So I'll go discuss that with them too.
Yeah, okay.
You like how I'm being?
Yeah, you're being very politically correct. Congratulations.
Nice guy. And then the rest was
a lot of spelling errors, and old Spelling McGee sitting across the table from me.
And
it's hard to check spelling in Revit. Just
I did not
hitting
check
that button.
Revit, but I'm going to throw a former employee under the bus because he made the whole thing.
Oh, that's true.
I didn't even make this one.
Oh, that's true. Well, look at me.
Yeah, but I didn't hit spell check. It's easy to do.
Yeah,
that.
we didn't. None of it. I mean, I could have spell checked too, and
it doesn't matter.
So it's good news. We're excited. We're super excited about that. And we're super excited. Moving ahead. We don't. So long as the economy doesn't crash,
Knocking
on wood. We're hoping for an extended business cycle, maybe a 10-year business cycle instead of the 7 years.
So I have another update from. So if you guys don't know, Lance and I made a proposal for Amazon. We made it up, and it was basically what would 8.1 million square feet look like.
8.5.
No, 8.1.
It was 8.1? Okay.
Yep. I made 8.2 because I just go above and beyond everything I do.
Wow, you provided more space when necessary?
Variance. So, what was great about it is that we kind of threw it out there and got a lot of attention from it. It was great.
And when he says kind of threw it out there, we already went over this in the podcast, and Lance methodically used his badass social media skills to get us into the mainstream media.
That's very true. So did I.
Yeah, and Al did too.
So, anyways, someone contacted us from Longmont. We don't do much work. They have a piece of land in Denver, and they say, "Hey, we saw you on the news. We want to do townhomes." And Lance and I are like, "That's what we do. We are very good at townhomes. Come in and meet us." We had a great meeting.
It was awesome. So, I was super excited when I think I fielded the phone call, and then I turned around and we have a bell in our office. So if anything good happens,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like
you could almost slip and catch yourself on ice.
Yeah, and
ring the bell.
you could come into the office and you could ring the bell, and we make it so that everybody can do it, so that everybody's a part of it and everybody feels like they're accomplishing stuff. Yeah. And then sometimes the guys will they have a little app on their phone and they'll go. Yep. So anyway, that all happened. We were pumped about it right after we got off the phone, and our guys go. Was that your guys' point with doing the Amazon? I was like, no. The point is to just put yourself out there with no expectations. And if you do good work, you're going to grab people's attention. People are going to want to gravitate towards you. And then they do. So we're really excited. We haven't won the contract. But hey, there's a one-to-one about how it came back. I know a lot of people were asking us in the Entre Architect community, I think in the business of architecture too, that community, if there was, have you guys gotten any actual work from that? And this is a perfect example if it comes through.
And a lot of times it comes through later just by people knowing our names, and they might forget that they saw us on that news. But what was great about this one was they came with something that we love to do and are great at doing. Like you could, other than just regular residential homes, our next bread and butter is just townhomes.
Yeah,
so.
And especially Al. Al really understands the ins and outs of all that stuff.
Love it.
The other cool thing about that meeting was it once again reinforced the importance of your own website, and then honestly putting out your own little commercials. So they went to our website and they saw that we did other townhomes. Really loved the way those ones looked, so that solidified it for them. But then they went through and they took the time to watch all of the videos that we had Mari Wolf of Mari Wolf Photography put together for us, and they just loved everything we had to say. And you remember during the meeting they were talking about us teaching at CU, that solidified it for them. They were they were already convinced. They already knew who we were before they came in, and they were already convinced. You could tell during the meeting about the mythologies that we do. So it was just nodding about and eating up everything we said.
Yep. And then I was equally interested in them because they're a Longmont firm doing townhomes. I want to partner with them. We'll have meetings at our office. It seems like a great fit. So we'll see how it goes, but it worked out great so far.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Should we hear from our good friend Enoch Sears from the Business of Architecture?
Yep. He's going to do best and worst advice, but since he's already been on the podcast, is he spinning it?
He said he's going to put together something special for us.
Ooh.
Because we've been good boys.
Okay, we'll see.
Here we go.
Hey, Lance and Alex, Enoch Sears here from the Business of Architecture podcast, and thank you for the invitation to contribute to this little segment on your awesome podcast, Inside the Firm. So I had to think a bit about this prompt, the best and worst advice, and I know I already contributed once before, but here we go. This is another go at best and worst advice. So I'm going to start out with the best advice that I've gotten. This advice was given to me by my grandmother when I was living with her for about a year. She lived in Hawaii, and my grandfather had just died. So I got to spend some good time with her, and as a good grandmother always does, she didn't hold back her words of wisdom. She was not a lady of many words, but she was a very wise lady. And here's the advice she gave me. Look, I had a job at the time. I was working at Subway, the sandwich shop. And she said, Enoch, if you want to be successful in life, here's what I recommend. When you're at your job, when you think that you've done all the tasks that are required of you, when you think that there's nothing left to do, always look for something else to do. Always find something to do. So I took that advice, and in every job I've had, there always gets the point when you're done. I mean, even in architecture, in everything, even if you have a menial job, if you're doing something at home, there always come that time when, say for instance, you're doing a drawing, the person who's kind of your supervisor in the architecture firm, let's say that you've completed all your tasks and they don't have anything for you to do. You go back, and we've all been there, right? Hey, I finished this drawing. What else do you have to do? And they're like, well, I'm busy. I'll get you in a minute, or I don't have anything, right? And so in a situation like that, we basically have two options. We can sit back and do nothing And the other option is we can proactively try to find something to do. So going back to my experience working at the Subway fast food restaurant, whenever there wasn't anything to do, quotes, air quotes, right, I would look for something to do. I would either go out, I would clean the tables, I would try to restock some of the shelves. Maybe there were some more vegetables that need to be prepped. There was always something that I could do. And this is closely related to the Japanese concept of Kaizen, which is constant improvement. Now, this advice has been something that has paid off huge dividends for me in my life, and that's why I have it right up there with one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had, because I find that constant improvement, we need constant improvement as people to be able to experience satisfaction and fulfillment. And part of that is always trying to look for ways to improve. All right, next up is the worst advice I've ever gotten. Now, I may get some hate mail about this, but the worst advice I've ever heard is follow your passion. Now, I'm not exactly even going to explain what I mean by that. I'm going to leave it to you guys to riff on that. There's probably lots of meat there within that statement. Some people will probably have a negative reaction to that. The one thing I will say is that I've found in life that there's two parts to this experience of being human. There's an emotional side and there's a rational side. And we need to be able to figure out in our own lives how to walk the line between those two to bring ourselves both our personal fulfillment and the impact that we want to have in this world. And I think the best thing is happening, the best result is happening when we're both personally fulfilled and we're making the biggest impact. And sometimes this advice of follow your passion can get in the way of that result. Let me know what you guys think. Look forward to your guys' thoughts on these two pieces of advice.
Enoch, thanks. That was awesome. Check out his podcast, Business of Architecture. Always great lessons to learn over there. I'm going to start. There's so much meat there. I'm going to start with grandma, because I have a grandma who's great too. And how my grandma influences me is just her attitude. You know what I mean? People don't have to say things to teach you lessons. They can
just give you a look.
But they can just be things.
Sure.
They can be things, right? So always look for something to do. Same thing. Honestly, my first day at McDonald's, they said, go clean all the tables and the trash and all that. So I did that and I came back. I go, okay, now what do you want me to do? They said, go clean all the tables and pick up all the trash. So I take another run and I go, okay, what do you want me to do now? I did that. And then the third time they said, your only job is to consistently clean all the tables and monitor the trash. I go, oh, got it. So I'm just going to keep myself busy doing all this. And, so same thing as Subway. But there was a speaker. I used to watch sometimes graduation speeches. And one doctor from the Mayo Clinic said, don't leave for tomorrow what you can do to today. And at the end of the day, I remember doing this when I worked for other people. And now I have a different take on it. But I would always think that, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? Because I kind of have an idea. Can I do that today? And especially at, Liebskin or other places. So I think that falls in the same advice. And sometimes you can't do things at your firm because for some other reason someone's doing something, your time would be wasteless if you did it in the project. But what I'd say is you can learn something. You can learn something about Revit. You can learn Revit structures. You can learn structures. There is YouTube videos. If you left me alone for a year, I would be busy the whole year just doing stuff that I want to do on my list. So I would say find something to do. But if for some reason you're like, no, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing. Learn something.
For me, when it was always to hit on Enoch's first point. When I always work construction. So as a laborer, the way to move ahead and try to become a carpenter or an apprentice was, okay, my first priority as a laborer is I need to make sure everybody's got their tools that they need, all their little supplies, and then I have to make sure, and then my backup job is to make sure the whole job site is clean. So I was on point always, made sure the job was clean, and then if that happened, then I was allowed to come up, pound nails, learn how to run a tape, learn how to cut wood, learn how to do all that kind of stuff. And then what that taught me was once I got put into a leadership position, I would watch other people who were underneath me, who were laborers, and then pick out if people were doing the same things I was doing as a laborer, where they were going above and beyond and making sure like it was always clean, and then okay, now you can come up onto the roof and help us lay the shingles and stuff like that. That's how you pick out leaders. And for me, that's how it's even translated into our firm, is like, okay, watch the people who are doing the extra little stuff. Those are the people who are doing the leaders, are going to be leaders, because then once they're in a leadership position, I think we can have either we need to have a conversation or hopefully we don't, and they pick up on the same thing. Like, okay, now I'm a leader, and now I'm watching those other people. Are they doing those extra little steps?
And we should honestly tell them. And what's great about that too is that I can't find all the red lines. I can't find all the ramifications. So when, hey, Al, you said this, I did this, and then this happened, and then so I changed that. I'm like, thank you.
Oh, those are the best. I think we've touched on that before, but especially when comments come back on drawings from the city, or we're getting ready to send out something for permit and somebody catches something, and then I go, actually, shout out Kyle Sack. He caught something the other day with our assembly count and on this project we were doing down in Westminster. Yeah. And we were texting because he works later at night for us, but he caught some interesting stuff, and then I go, wow, great catch. And then we talked about it more in the morning, and then we solidified it. Like,
was this the same thing you talked to me about that I opened up?
Just this extra above and beyond thinking, and not trying. He wasn't trying to like say you guys are idiots or anything. He was just literally trying to do the best job he could and go a little bit above and beyond with his critical thinking. And it made for like, okay, good. The project is solid. We figured this out. It should be bulletproof moving forward.
Yeah. Very nice. Okay, the second part, follow your passions. I like that he twisted it on its head.
I love it too, because our last podcast was called "If It's a Passion, Pursue It."
Nice. But there's dichotomies.
Absolutely.
And I know it's almost like a trick to say something that someone likes and then throw the other bus, but it's so worth discussion, right? Because if you said, Al, right now, I want you to stop, just follow your passions. And instantly I have no time to think about what that is, right? I just have to do. So I would start reading books almost all day. I would garden, fix up my house, and I would teach. And that sounds great. That's great life. But the only thing is, holy cow, is my income going to go way down. And then this affects my wife because my wife does not work. She's starting to babysit now for other people. But okay, now does she need a job? And we've seen, and if you're both people working, dual income houses, I think that's great. You have more money. You're pursuing your passions. But the stress level that comes to our house when Annie watches, and Annie's like, this is showing me how much I love my life. I love my life that I don't have to work, and if I want to, I can just watch some more kids and hang out, and it's stress-free, and come home. She makes food. I mean, the food I eat is above my pay grade.
She's a phenomenal cook, yeah. So on that note, my wife and I have had that conversation many times too, and we always come to the same conclusion. Thank God we own our own businesses, and we are afforded the ability by taking that risk to be flexible with the kids. So like every morning she drops them off, every afternoon I pick them up, and you guys know that. And then I go to my home office after that and work for a couple hours.
And they're older too, which is great for you guys.
Yeah. So it obviously everybody who listens to this podcast knows how passionate Alex are about what we do. But Enoch brings up a great point in that you need to keep your eye on the ball, because at the end of the day you have to feed yourself, so there has to be some practicality to it too. I think it always comes down to balance, right? It just always comes down to how do you live a balanced life? And obviously sometimes you skew it too far to the side in some ways, and so like for me, I'm a huge voluntarist. And so, I run a community garden, and then I do all these other, political things with all these other political groups that I'm involved with. And it's good to be talented, but at some point, people are now wanting me to pursue and push my talents towards their things. So I'm having to say, and I've told Alex and I have this conversation a couple times this week. I'm like, I got to just start turning people down. I have to stop saying yes. I need to start learning how to say no, and I have to remind myself that, because I have to have my family life. I have to have my personal life too.
And it goes back to one of the advice where we said calculated risk. So a lot of people, you'll hear follow your passions, right? So let's say you have some pet project you want to do. All you want to do, Lance, is make memes. All I want to do is design spaceships, right?
Yep.
No one's going to design a person that doesn't know how to design stuff. right?
Yeah.
Or what I mean, like if you develop that skill during your free time over time and then transition to that, that's what people don't see, is that it's a calculated risk. It's not this just jump in. And what's hard about that too is people say the best way to learn is just to engross yourself, immerse yourself, do all that, and it accelerates your time, right? Okay, if you have that buffer, you have that 50,000 buffer, maybe.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. So a calculated risk, that's so smart, I think, to bring up, because you have to, if you're going to, I wouldn't just jump into a passion without buying yourself some time to pursue that passion.
And the most people that say that they just jump into it and just do it, it's the people who started their business in their 20s. And if I was living in Fargo, I know I'll get rent for $200, which is nothing. And then back then, I think your parents are probably still paying your health care until you're 26.
Yep.
So you have to pay $200 plus heat plus food. You're spending $500 a month. You can, I don't know, work side gigs and then pursue your passion and then be really involved. So that's where it's calculated because you're young and you have no responsibilities. Totally understand that. That makes sense. So if you are at that younger stage, I want to shy away from that because you have that opportunity. If you are 30, you have a wife, kid, all this other stuff, then be a little bit more calculated. Pursue your passions, but pursue them wisely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it.
All right. Next, where are we going next?
Oh, I don't know. I got to pull up our little outline we have going on.
Yeah.
Letting go. Somebody, we've been letting go, and it's paying dividends.
Yep. So the Longmont Downtown Development
Authority.
They're
the authority.
I like that. Someone's going to
LDDA.
Yep. They approached us and said, we're going to have an alleyway. It's basically an art Second Friday event where we're going to jazz up this alleyway. We don't know.
We have these alleyways in Longmont. I'll kind of paint a picture for everybody. We have these alleyways in Longmont that run perpendicular to the major alleyways. So they're sort of like these spaces in between buildings that nobody really built, but now they've prettied them up and bought and made like pavers. So they're kind of like these little walkways, right?
Yep. Oh, sorry.
That was it. I just wanted to paint a short picture for everybody like that. That's the kind of alley we're talking. We're not talking like your typical street alleyway. These are just pedestrian only.
Yep. So they wanted an event. It's going to be tonight, Friday. And they said, we want to engage the alleyway and make it something cool, right? So then Lance said, okay, how about we have strings over this alleyway and we connect them to the light poles? So it's just basically a canopy. And then him or I said, okay, we'll have it at different angles so it'll be cool, right?
Huge. I'm talking, what are they, 20 feet wide? It would
20
have been
feet wide, and strings are 1/16 of an inch, and the alleyway is 150 feet. So whatever that math is, 5,000, 7,000 times 20 is 70. Anyways, we're getting to 100,000 feet.
A lot.
Yep. Anyways, so we said, guys, you guys design it, right? Yep. And then we've been so busy that the check-in, Lance hasn't even checked in. He's asked me, what are the guys doing? Like Lance checking in is checking in with me, asking what's going on.
And what's funny is, so I think they got in touch they emailed me first, and then Al didn't. We were both kind of skeptical about doing it, and then we said, no, come on, we got to do it because we want to be Longmont's guys. We want to be Longmont's firm, so let's just go.
Long monsters.
And Alex is right. I have been so touch and go with it that I barely know what's going on, for better or for worse.
Yep. So anyways, I kind of split the guys into tasks. One guy design, one guy these pavilions, one guy the yarn. There's this whole system going on. And the first design that they had was some sort of portal frame coming together, and still a whole bunch. And then one of them made a study model. And now we have this really cool ribbon. I'll put a link to it on the show notes.
It's about a 5 foot wide ribbon of yarn.
Neon green.
Yep. And the yarn's probably spaced 1.5 inches apart, something like that.
And it twists and it turns, and then it links into these folding pavilions. So if you've seen our Atlas tiny house or some of our other tiny houses that we do, they all kind of fold and expand. So now we have these pavilions that literally are 10 feet long, 10 feet high when you set them up. They're a foot wide when they're folded, and they're 4 feet, thick. And basically they unfold so that you have a canopy over. They're made of wood. They all fit together perfectly. And we are making them on Saturday. We made all 4 of them all on Saturday, and then we painted them and then did some fix up on Wednesday, and they're out there putting up all the yarn. And what's great is that if Lance or I were in charge, I think we would have said like, okay, just execute the first idea, get it done, execute the first idea. And instead they just came up with new ideas. They just designed it. So Josh would show me some stuff and I'd say, okay, we need to support. It gave some useful suggestions so it doesn't,
fall over.
But it was just that like, hey, let's have a support here. Okay, let's do this. That was it. Now I'm going back to work. And it's worked out great. So
it's worked out so great that yesterday, Alex and I were in lecture for 5 hours straight, listening to all the midpoints for one of our classes. And then all the guys were out painting these little pavilions that they were building. We finally got there, I think at like 3:30 or something like that. And then Alex and I had to take another phone call and deal with the sales thing that we kind of touched on earlier. Walk around the block, deal with all that. Then we were on the phone with our lawyer for a while. And then what was great was we were like, oh, wow, it's 5 p.m. Walked outside and we're like, oh, the guys are done. Then I walk back in and I go, our guys are the best.
Yeah.
And so it was great. So we're letting go and they're crushing it.
Yep. And I think what's great is if we go back to the last podcast, meaning you should listen to all the podcasts, it was a passion project for them because they really liked it. Mm-hmm. We gave them autonomy. And we did give them autonomy, 100% on that one. Mm-hmm. And then Josh is skilled in carpentry, and Mark in design, and Josh and Jason helped them out too. And then so they are kind of masters in this small craft. So that all 3 came together.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I really feel for us it gives us just a ton of confidence in. I feel like we could just let them run completely loose, maybe the next time on something like this, which is super exciting. Or it's just maybe less that we have to worry about, because we can just confidently walk into it and maybe do the same kind of scenario where you and I are talking to the people and setting the overall tone, and then it's just like, but we know our guys can handle it.
And the only thing I did on Saturday, so I was out there working, was one, I set the example with work ethic, meaning I was just being efficient, crushing. We broke it into 3 tasks, and so I was just doing a good job. So everyone was knowing, like, keep working and stuff like that. And then I tried to instill a philosophy in them. So like I was detached and able, let them do their own thing, but it's how should we execute this? And they wanted to make one and then cut out all the pieces for the rest. I go, let's make one test it, put it together. Then everyone do their tasks. And once everyone is done with their individual pieces, some might move faster than others. Let's put it together and then store it. Because by the third one, we learned like, oh, we don't need to cut this out as much. We're actually doing too much work. So the philosophy is, always give yourself something that you can test so you can improve. So that you've heard of the OODA loop. I've talked about the OODA loop. So basically you need something to react to. So let's make those reaction points happen so that we can improve rather than just cutting a whole bunch. Because when you're just cutting and then you're not setting it in place, then all of a sudden the reaction doesn't happen. It happens once at the end rather than 4 times. And you might think that, oh, you're going slower, just not by chop, 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 chop. Mistakes are what really kill you.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it worked out great.
Yeah, we're excited. So if you can fly in.
Yes, please fly in.
Come check us out.
Book your tickets right now.
We'll be downtown 6 to 9. We're excited about it.
Yep.
It should be cool. Cool. I think it's bestie time.
Oh, I love my best friend.
He's the best.
Yep.
He said he missed his flight today, but he was headed here. Old Nicholas Renard.
So this is
architecture.
NickReads. I'm guessing it's going to be from Gensler.
How do you know? Here we go.
Hello, best friends. I hope you all had a great week this week. A reading. Learn from athletic teams. When we think about investing in our people, we often approach it much like sports coaches would their teams. The coaches with the best track records often have surprisingly straightforward workout regimens for their players. They understand that for every sport, there's a core program that serves as the fundamental building blocks for achieving high performance at game time. They know it takes constant and consistent investment in everyone on the team getting these fundamentals right in order to produce season after season of victories. Art Gensler. Lance. Hold it there. These kids paid good money to come here and buy me expensive imported beers, just so they could go home knowing they did something good for their fellow man. I'm not going to send these kids back to the great towns they came from with their feeling that they're right to be together, have a good time, and yeah, do a little skiing has been usurped. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Toodles!
Did you get it? Do you think
I feel like it's from Out Cold.
every line? Do you think every line is from Out Cold?
That's a classic movie.
It's a really good movie.
The skiing was the tip.
Yeah.
And put it in your pipe and smoke it. I swear that was in there.
Oh, we're gonna have to look. Everyone is gonna have to watch Out Cold and see if it, fits. So, I mean, it just links with everything that we've saying is that there's a core program, and that program is based off of fundamentals
and consistency. Just being consistent. How critical is that?
There's two teams that come to mind in their football teams, Alabama and NDSU. And holy cow, with Alabama and NDSU, you know what they're going to do
Every year.
They're going to run. They're going to...
Their defense is going to be impeccable.
Yep, their defense is going to have their best athletes, and then they're going to control the clock, and then they're going to be consistent and poised and all that stuff. And there's no fancy nonsense coming at you, and you just cannot stop it. It's crazy. And speaking of football, I just got to let you know. I know this is time sensitive, but you know what game is on Saturday?
I don't know what game is on Saturday.
Miami, Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
Come on. And they're both ranked. It's like 4 and 5. Do you remember the old...
Where's it at, though? Notre Dame?
I don't know. But remember the old rivalry with those guys?
Yeah.
Oh, that's gold, son.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Man, if I was back into football, I'd be on it.
Yeah, you're not.
I'd be right on it.
He's into football as much as I'm into following whatever's happening in the news.
Anything news cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Cool.
So I want to talk about another thing. Involving your team. Mm-hmm. So we already talked about letting the rein free, right? Constant, consistent improvement, right? So a couple podcasts ago, probably like more than like 10, we talked about improving our template, right? So in Revit, you have a template that you start off of. I'm sure in everything else, there's some sort of template, some sort of guideline, either for getting work, for doing Excel spreadsheets, for whatever people does. There's a standard operating procedure, right? So we encourage people to think about improvements for that, right? And then involve the team so that you can get different perspectives. So you got my email. I don't know when I sent it out, Tuesday morning.
Something like that.
Yep. And I wanted to think about broader scope, the process, the program, right? How we actually do stuff. And I just asked them, what takes the most time? And then how can we improve on that? And I gave an example and go, you don't have to have solutions. You can just say, this takes the most time, or this is the most frustrating, right? Mm-hmm. And then other people can add on, oh, guys, if we just did this, or if we had this, we could save time. And at the end, I almost forgot about this, but I thought it'd be nice to add in the end, tell them why I'm asking this question. And the reason why, there's two fundamental reasons why. One is because if these are frustrating or take time, it'd be good to know how to be efficient at this so it works better. So literally you're not dreading going to work. And the second is that I think we can become more competitive if we do that, meaning that we can beat out the competition and we can have a more stable ground, which means not only, more money, but more security for everyone. So be sure to involve your team.
Well, and
ask for suggestions.
And I will give an actual example of how I did that this week. I don't even know if it was before or after Al's email, but it doesn't matter. So I'm working with one of our guys, Jason, on a group home project, and when so he's going to be the lead on it, and I approached him and said, "Hey, here's the preliminary site plan that I have laid out. What I need you to do is rev this. There's a Revit model linked, and that was the building. And what you need to do is you need to figure out what is going to be the quickest way for us to either get the model, get the architecture into the site plan, or should we take the site plan and put it into the model?" So he took about an hour of time, analyzed the problem, and then said, "Okay, this is the way it's going to be most efficient." So I just gave him the option and trusted him to just tell me flat out, as the guy who's going to be doing the majority of work, okay. And then I just said, all right, if that's the way it is, then I trust you, and let's move ahead with that, and hope and it is going to work out.
I think your question was key though, because you could have just gave the task, combine these two together, get them to work, but you asked what is the most efficient way to do it. So you had to pause, think, detach, and then analyze the problem, right? Because a lot of times what we say, and I think the reason for success for some of our projects, especially our speculative projects, is the questions we ask. It's not the program that they give you. It's the questions that you ask about it that can lead to the most fruitful production. So just that question, what's the most efficient way to do this task, was great.
Yep, and then trust your people.
Kudos.
Gotta trust them. So there you go. There's a good example. Okay, Al. With that, Al is going to continue.
Impress everyone.
Continually impress everybody.
With knowing the nuances of code questions that Lance finds tricky.
5 minutes before we start recording every single Friday. Exactly. So as everybody knows, we are in the International Residential Code. We are in Chapter 3, Planning Stairways, R311.7.1. Alex is a stairway expert.
That's questionable.
Okay, width.
I am.
The stairway width shall not be less than how many inches where handrails are provided on both sides. So basically, I'm not even going to give you a hint. So the stairway width shall not be less than how many inches where the handrails are provided on both sides? A, 21 inches. B, 24 inches. C, 27 inches. D, 30 inches.
30.
Incorrect.
Less than 30.
You can go 20. So now I need to clarify.
Yeah.
And the code, I think the code should be rewritten, because what they need.
I agree.
What a statement,
Yeah.
Captain Obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. So the way I think it should be written is, what is the minimum clear width that you can have between handrails?
Yep.
If they're on both sides and the stairway is itself 36 inches. Does that make sense?
If it's 36 inches.
Keep going. I'm drawing, but keep going.
So, and then what did you say the answer was?
27 inches.
So you can encroach 9 inches. You can encroach 4.5 inches.
Yes.
On each side.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And so like you see what I'm drawing here, right?
I do.
Yeah. So so that's I don't know. I actually got somebody asked me that question the other day, another client, because we drew the stair at 36 inches, and he's like, "Are you sure you can do that?" And this guy, I swear this is a superintendent that we work with on for a builder, and I swear every quarter he just does this just to test me. And then I go, "Oh crap! I gotta look up the code book." So I should just memorize this.
27.
From now on. 27.
27 in between.
Yep. And then if it's us, and this is just off my head, if you do one rail on one side, it's 31.5 inches. So because of the 4.5, right? You get it.
Yep.
Okay. Last question. Same chapter. Stairways. R311.7.3. Vertical rise. A flight of stairs. This is so dumb. A flight of stairs shall not have a vertical rise larger than how many inches between floor levels or landings? Inches. I love that they did it in inches.
144.
That's why it's so dumb. A, 144 inches. B, 147 inches. C, 150 inches. D, 153 inches.
Going with my gut.
Incorrect. 147 inches. Isn't that weird?
Huh. I love that. When you saw this, you're like, this is weird.
That's why I picked it. You already told everybody.
Wouldn't you think it's 144 at 12?
Yes,
Why
exactly.
147? Are they accounting for like gaps in
don't know. But because isn't it in the IBC? You can do you can't go more 144. Like as soon as you go above 12 feet, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
so like if you have a 13-foot floor to floor, then you have to put a landing basically in the middle and break it up. Yeah. So that's why this stood out. I don't know. So I think it comes down to a residential application.
Do you think it also comes down to somehow that 12 foot is in the back of everyone's head? So if they have a 12 foot, 12 foot floor to floor height, and then all of a sudden you have a thick wood on one side, and then you have like you go down to just concrete, and it adds a couple inches. Like they gave you some leeway there, So
maybe you're going from a slab on grade to a wood frame floor. I don't know.
Because all of a sudden it's 145 inches because of the difference in the finished material, and it's built. And the inspector said no, and the contractor is like, I'm going to strangle you right now. What do you think you're doing? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the only reason I can think. There's 147. What is that?
What does that even mean?
12'3"? Why 12'3"?
Yeah, 12'3".
Just because.
I have no idea. Isn't that interesting though?
All right.
Totally weird.
So if you want more of Lance and Alex, which I know you do, pick up the Creativity Code. It's a book about architecture, design, philosophy of how to approach projects, how to execute, and take what's in your mind and make it a reality. Go there. It's on Amazon. You can pick it up. So that'd be a great read, not only for yourself to refamiliarize yourself and refocus on the fundamentals. If you know of a student going into architecture,
your wife will love it.
Your wife, my wife loved it. Your wife loved
exactly.
it.
I'm not being joking.
Well, God, that's a good point. Honestly,
your wife will love it
because they will see more where you're coming from, where your brain is thinking.
Yep, and they'll be able to have that dialogue with you. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, and then they can hit you and be like, Lance, is that a line?
No, are you properly grouping?
Yeah, no, but then, I see. Not only are you not aligning physically, but metaphysically and philosophically, I don't think the aesthetic aligns with the. They'll be able to rip you apart. It'll be great.
It's brilliant.
So you pre-read it.
Yeah.
Students, anyone you know, would be a great gift just to prime their brain. And then Mark LePage said, I never even thought about this. Clients. So client as a gift to a client. Because it's all the language that you guys know and probably provided in a fresh way so that they can get on the same page as you too. So pick up that on Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. If you like this podcast, please leave us a review. You can do, if you updated to the latest iPhone, what is it called? iOS. I'm sorry because they screwed it up.
Yeah, if you type I, it's a weird A and like a question mark right now.
Yeah, but you can provide feedback. You can give us a rating. We'd love that too. Last task, if you do like this, think about one friend, just one friend that might like this. Send it to them and say, this is your Christmas present. You will get nothing else from me. That is it.
There you go. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.